it's a nice opportunity to just provide more resources and more value for all of you guys. So, welcome to today's WACCT webinar. It's funny when I talk to my colleagues from other trustees associations and I say WACCT, they think I'm saying wacky webinar. So I have to be careful to say WACCT webinar. So they think I'm saying, oh, it's a wacky webinar, which it might be. And that might depend on what I talk about next. So we'll see how that goes. But happy to have you all here. The resources on the website are starting to populate out a little bit more. I do have the first draft, if you will, of my bill tracking sheet, and so that's up there. It has, I think it was updated as of 2 days ago. And so we are seeing bills dropping bit by bit. It's for the budget session starting on Monday. Let me say this politically correctly if I can. Um, we should have a lot more bills on the website. That was pretty straightforward. What I need to maybe watch how I say it is no one's quite sure as to why we're not seeing more bills on the website. So there's some folks who are pontificating on that they're being told to hold them back so that they all drop at once. I'm hearing that from multiple sources. So I don't know if that's true. This is a hard time for LSO. They are absolutely inundated. They are working through the weekend and it's time for them to have those very long days. So I know they're doing the best that they can. And then, of course, our state agencies are working really hard to turn over fiscal notes and things like that. So it's crunch time, but we are not seeing the amount of bills posted yet that I'm comfortable with. So I would like to have seen more by now, but we'll just start watching them. They will start introducing them as soon as they're all gavelled in. The governor will give his state of the state on the 9th, I believe at 10 o'clock. In a longer session, in a general session, he does that on the next morning. On a budget session, it's day one. They also don't take a President's Day recess. So it's fast and furious, 20 days and 20 nights. Or what did Bob Tarantola used to say? Rosie, he'd say 20 days and 40 nights. So it's just a lot of work. So that being said, it's my job, and I know the commission is doing this too. We're just really trying to watch every bill that drops. Even today for the Appropriations Committee, we're not seeing bills yet posted when they're talking about them. Taking testimony on the CapCon bill even today didn't happen, but when they did take it, we didn't have a bill in front of us. We were all saying, well, we think this is in there, but seeing it in black and white matters. So that's a bit of a frustration on my end, but let's just start there with the budget, and then we'll go into CapCon as well. We have a lot of people on the Zoom today, so feel free to use your hand function. I probably won't see your hand very well. Maybe I can have an assist from someone if someone's trying to ask a question and I'm not calling on them. I'd love the help. So welcome everybody, and just bear with me as we make sure and try and get everyone's questions answered. So looking at this budget, the Appropriations Committee is very new. We all know that. We have two chairmen who have never been chairman of this committee before, and then other members who have never ever been members of appropriations. That's fine. It's just a challenge. And we're hearing from members that, gosh, I'm just so grateful that I am on this committee now. I'm learning so much, which is something I've always said as someone who sits in the hard wooden chairs in that room, is that you learn what's going on when you learn the budget. And so I'm grateful that we have some more people who are learning the budget. But it's just been a challenge, and I think for staff too, because there's just so much learning going on. The governor made some pretty conservative recommendations in what he was putting together. This committee offered in their markup what I heard this morning, $314 million less than the governor's recommendations, but still putting significant amount of savings into the SIPA account to the amount of $337 million. Though we do have legislation out there to do away with that SIPA account, which largely is used for things like capital construction and special projects. So there was some strategy behind why they were created. Now there are some bills to say we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do it differently. So the fate of bills like that we will have to see. But I didn't get to listen to the whole Appropriations Committee today because I was driving home from Gillette, going to or attending the Eggs and Issues up there, listening to most of their Campbell County legislators, not quite all of them. So I didn't quite get to walk through or listen to the entire recap, but generally what we know and what I think I have corroborated with the folks at the commission, the colleges are looking pretty decent, even coming out of the markup. So I'm just going to go into that. You all know the big things that are the questions that people are getting worked up about, and that is the rural health or the Native American health, which I understand was fixed today. The University of Wyoming cuts to their state block grant, $40 million, but then other things that were cut, I think the number is closer to 60 plus $million. And then, of course, not even defunding, but doing away with through another bill, the Wyoming Business Council. So some pretty big, do we say it, chess moves? You know, this is all politics, but it's getting the buzz going on these really big, broad conversations. And there's a lot of opinions about the how, but it's where we are. So let's talk about the colleges, and some of those other things might weave in a little bit, if that's okay. So if you look at the bill tracking, I do have two spots because now that it's come out of the Appropriations Committee, do you guys want me to share my screen with the bill tracker, or do you want to just see faces? It's up to you. Anyone have opinions on that?
Share the screen.
Okay, I'll do that.
And can you put a link in the chat, Aaron, so we can pull it up ourselves too?
That'll take me a minute, John, but it's on the website under the advocacy page.
I'll go get it and I'll put it in.
Okay. The only thing, I just updated it on the budget to reflect, so House Bill 1 and Senate File 1. We don't have the printed bills yet. Likely we won't see those until next week. I like to see it in black and white to really know what's in there. But no employee compensation for anybody. So even though that's something that's been top of the college's list for years and communicated as such, and the governor offered a healthy recommendation for employee compensation, 14 million of which would have gone to the community colleges, and UW would have got some as well. The appropriator said no. So that is something to think about. I think it's time now that they hear from folks, activating folks to suggest that, and I've heard the president, or not just the presidents, but the trustees also do a really great job of talking about the problems of trying to keep and retain and recruit staff on all levels, not just those ones that compete with the private sector more competitively like CTE, but across the board. So keep telling those stories. I think that is something. The dynamic that we don't know is how hard I think the appropriators in the House will really hold firmly to their budget. The Senate, I don't know how firmly that committee will get up and defend that budget position, because the Senate is still kind of coming together in their leadership space, because this is a House budget. They have more votes on this committee jointly. So that employee compensation thing, there might be opportunity to get some put back in on second or third reading, probably in the Senate. But that's something that I think we should all talk about. TRP, that's replacing basic technology that the commission utilizes. So I've heard Dr. Ballard talk about, almost having to paperclip and rubber band the computers together. They didn't get their TRP last year. So the fact that it was cut in half is a big deal for their even little agency. It's a big deal. But statewide, those needs were not fully met. And as you all know, with technology needs, those do not decrease in time if they're not replaced. So that's going to be a tricky one. In terms of bigger asks that were made for the community colleges, what you're not going to see in here is, and what's also on the WACCT webpage is our advocacy talking points. So it looks like this color scheme that we've been using. So this talks about, colleges are the strategic investment of our state. We're really utilizing those words, and asking folks to think about it as such. Think about the colleges in that way, not just technical colleges. They are community hubs, and they are really the lifeblood and the heartbeat of our communities and of certainly our workforce. What's not listed in there is the ask that the colleges made that went through a very robust process this summer to get to a $19 million ask for inflationary dollars. The need is far greater than that. And you all know that. 19 million is what the commission thought was prudent, and reasonable. Now, the reason why you are not going to see that and haven't heard it in the budget discussion is because the governor's office said, do not bring that forward. I suspect it was a agency-wide position because we didn't hear a lot of talk about inflation across the other agencies, although everybody has it. So that's just an interesting dynamic. I'm just making a note of it. I don't have high hopes that those sorts of inflationary dollars could be put back in there. But we will see how that goes. So $19 million is not denied because it wasn't included in the commission's ask, but it's in here. And that's the beauty of what WACCT can do, is we can tell the story if it doesn't get to be told fully in the budget process. So that's not in there for that core operational support. If in terms of CTE is kind of the golden letters right now. People are really liking CTE, and that's great. Just remember, I am reminding them the colleges are comprehensive institutions. They are not just CTE. While it's a great talking point, it is part of what the colleges do. It's not all they do. However, where they landed was giving us half of the $15 million that was requested for broad-based and flexible CTE dollars. So this is to sustain the programs that are out there, not necessarily those startup dollars that's included in Wyoming Works, which we were also given $5 million for that startup money. So Wyoming Works, startup, high demand, high need programs, also some student grant dollars, and those are being utilized. So that's great. But that broader category for CTE is flexible dollars. That's ongoing dollars. And the commission did a really great job of explaining that. And there's even a handout on that. So Dr. Ballard, we might even share that out if folks would like to utilize that. What also came up in the appropriations process is was highlighted the need for dual enrollment. Some colleges are having to limit how much is offered for every course that a student wants to take. It's a loss leader for the college. It's getting tough. It's also getting the attention of some legislators. Why are they limiting this? And whether it's homeschoolers or my student in high school, there's some limits that are out there. If legislators want dual enrollment to be unlimited or available far and wide, then it was made clear, and I think the commission did a fantastic job of putting together a memo talking about how this really plays out across the state, where the needs are, and what the appropriation really needs to be. Where the committee landed was a 2-year pilot program in the amount of $750 specific for dual enrollment for students who don't currently have the access that they need or want. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. I know legislators are already hearing from other, parts of the state saying, well, that's not nearly enough even for our district or our community, our county. So if that sticks for 2 years as a pilot, we'll see if there's a want to put more in there. I know the commission's done good work to provide those resources. So I want to just highlight that for you as well. That's what that $750,000 that you'll see as a footnote in there. And then finally, there is some dollars for rodeo. We were given $200,000 ongoing in the last biennium. And for those of you who don't know this, I think most of you probably do, rodeo athletes compete across the board with other rodeo athletes at big D1 schools. And that matters. And so the legislature has also been looked favorable on that. They gave UW some rodeo money, and so for the colleges as well, an additional $600,000 to include Gillette College, so that each college could receive some portion of that appropriation on an ongoing basis. So for the colleges, it's not bad. Coming out of approps, we've had less. We've had more, but it's decently favorable. Do we have some opportunity on second or third reading? I believe we do. We just have to really think about what that looks like. Quickly, are there any questions about the broader budget before I go on to CapCon? Okay, and I can't see everybody right now since I'm sharing, so just speak up. Okay, so if we talk about capital
Yeah,
construction,
I have a
oh,
question.
I
This is
see.
Brad.
Okay,
Sorry. So it's kind of a question for Laurel because I was listening to some of the JAC today, and one comment that co-chair of JAC Bear said was, okay, this isn't a whole lot of CT money, I've been told, and so it probably should be, just only given to maybe a couple schools strategically. And by the way, Gillette should sure use some money or something. But the question for really Laurel is, and you mentioned this to me, I think in my trustees, Laurel, is that there would be some sort of a application process, and I think we've done that in the past, correct?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be in order to do this.
Are we already skipping the funding allocation model? Are we
Well,
already planning for some different process here?
So
Is
for
that
the
right?
750 for dual enrollment, I thought that's what Brad was talking
Oh,
about.
okay. I thought he was talking
No,
about
but for
CTE.
that, and also the Bear was talking about CTE money as well.
Yeah, so for the 750, I think we're gonna have to do some sort, it's a grant, so we'll have to figure out some sort of application for the funding. It would be great if we could find ways to get more money into that, because that's like a drop in the bucket compared to the over it's like 5 million or something that I said it would cost, or more than that, just to pay the tuition and fees for the current number of students in dual and concurrent enrollment. For this 7.5, he referenced the fact that that our current, we had mentioned that we were going to do it through the funding allocation model. And he was hearing from some in the field that maybe we need to allocate it differently based on basically who's offering CTE. I will tell you guys right now, I'm not sure how we're gonna do that since we don't even have a solid definition of CTE in the state. So that should be interesting. But just so you know that they didn't come up with a way. He said it would be a good thing for it to show up on an amendment to kind of think about that on the floor. So it may be something we want to think about and give them an idea if we're not going to do the funding allocation model. I will just say to you guys, though, there's been a lot put over the last 5 years or so placed on the commission without new staff, that we're kind of tapped. Like if we're going to keep making these new programs and ways of allocating and funding money, I'm going to end up needing more staff to be able to handle the extra workload that keeps coming. Because there's two here, right? If they change the funding allocation model method for the CTE, and we have a grant program for dual and concurrent enrollment. So just so you guys are aware.
Thank you for that, Dr. Ballard. So let's kind of keep it high level for this. And remember, we are recording, so I just want to make sure we're keeping it in that space. I'm hearing lots of things that are bubbling up. So I've asked Dr. Ballard, and I'll ask all of you too, to kind of keep some notes of some things that might need some attention in the future. A lot of these things are big, and I just don't know if we can do it, in a budget amendment on the floor. And so let's keep that in mind. And let's get our thinking caps on some ways that maybe long term we can all work together to make some strategic changes or in statute or what that looks like. I think we've got some opportunity. And we're going to have a change in administration, so that's certainly going to have a flavor on everything. And so let's kind of get our thinking caps on, but we also have to keep in mind what you just heard from Dr. Ballard. They are the hardest working agency out there with a very tiny staff. And I think our legislators need to be aware of that as well before we just say, hey, let's go do this. So let's talk about CapCon really quickly. So again, they had a virtual meeting today. It was noticed that they were going to take testimony today. So I know they did take some earlier in January. I think everyone thought we'd still yet see the bill, because that's generally how you do it, is you have the bill posted and then you take testimony. And so a lot of people didn't, and I wasn't there that day. So that's an interesting dynamic then, that today's staff said, oh, wait, our bad. That wasn't meant to be posted. So that's just interesting. I just kind of disagree with how that goes. I think they should have had testimony today. Regardless, my understanding of the capital construction bill is that it does have authorizations for the community college projects, also authorizations to utilize private dollars. So if the college wants to pursue some part of a project with dollars that they raise, that they have the authorization to do that. Without that, you can't do that. But no dollars appropriated for actual construction or studies, anything like that. What is in this bill, which is a little bit different than they've done before, is all of those major maintenance dollars are in this separate bill that will be the capital construction bill. In the past, those have been kept in the main budget bill. So we've been told that that's an incentive to keep this bill alive and not just have it, go by the wayside or whatnot, to have then 2 years in a row of not having a CapCon bill. So if there aren't any dollars that are brought into that bill, which I expect there will be some attempts, how that happens is going to be the strategy. It will include major maintenance and authorizations, and then authorization to use private dollars. So for the colleges that do have those projects, the communication needs to continue. And the story I'm telling them is now it would be year 2 of cost escalators that these projects are facing. So that story needs to be told. There's a lot of new legislators that don't have the historical understanding that CapCon is an annual process. And that's something I'm trying to remind them. So keep up that work on that communication. Are any questions on CapCon? Are we good to just kind of walk through the bills that I have on the tracker right now? Okay. So I'm not going to, we'll go through them bit by bit, but we do have our friend House Bill 10, which is that sexually explicit materials in libraries, making, there's cause of action in there. And right now, as it's written, the collective we does not believe this applies to the libraries at the community colleges, the way it's defined. I think we have to just watch it very, very closely. And so I'd ask all of you to keep that on your radar, make sure your libraries are comfortable in that space. We don't want that bill to sneak through if we do nothing and then go, oh, shoot, it does apply, so let's really make sure we know how those definitions apply and what that looks like for the community college libraries. There's a few bills that came, and there's an obscenity bill later on, sponsored by Representative Lucas. Again, even though we had a bill passed last year, this is taking it further to where she would like it to go. Generally, when a bill passes, there's not a lot of favor to say, oh, let's revisit it again and then keep going. They'll say, gosh, didn't we do that last year? So that'll be interesting to see how that goes, but it's on the docket, so we're going to have to deal with it. There's a few bills that came out of the Education Committee, the Wyoming's program, Wyoming's Tomorrow Scholarship. I think the Education Committee is really interested in all of the family of scholarships that are available for students. And I just saw a little typo there, so I'll fix that in. That 3 shouldn't be in there. But just trying to make it more broadly available. So the lives of your part-time students where real life gets in the way and they're not in a continuous enrollment situation, really wanting to make sure that they have access to those dollars if that happens. So that's really what that bill was about. There's that bill, House Bill 33, repeals the SIPA account. So like I said, that is an account that's been utilized for a long time for a lot of capital construction and things like that. And so that's a bill that a lot of people are going to have their eye on. Lots of property tax bills. And so what I will likely do when I report out for you on a weekly basis, and I'll just quickly pause and talk to you about the WACCT board gets emails every single day. I like to make sure the presidents and the board are all in the know every single day. Once a week, I send a summary out to all of the trustees and everyone who's involved in our community college family. They're posted on the website, and this is updated weekly. So I'll probably break out all of the property tax bills so that you don't have to, kind of look for them. They'll be on this sheet as well, but I'll really focus on those since that is a big part of the conversation that, as you know, impacts each and every one of the community colleges. And so what I heard this morning at Eggs and Issues from Senator Barlow was that we really need to fully understand the cumulative effect of all of the measures that have taken place. And then we still have this 50% ballot initiative in November. And so the effects of that are quite staggering. And even though some are trying to say it's only, 1% of your hugely inflated budget, and I'm not being flip about that. There are legislators who are trying to suggest it doesn't matter. So the communication from everyone on this call, every single college needs to be every single dollar matters. And when you're making decisions that impact our local revenues, that matters. So long story short, I'll be trying to pull out all of those property tax bills so that you can have a really quick, easy synopsis. And our friends at the Taxpayers Association have been great partners to help communicate that. Also, we've started another page on our website to gather more resources for property tax information. So we'll keep doing that. So the long-term homeowners exemption repeals the sunset date. Likely that's something that may go in there. I have some positions that I've just put in there and where I think we might end up, we may or may not end up there. So that's something that we'll talk about. There's a few other bills that are interesting. This House Bill 47 is a duty to assist if someone's in a state of an emergency. I'm not sure if that's a bill that has, friends in other states. I don't know the background behind that bill, but I just figured with students on your campuses and whatnot, that's probably something you need to be just aware of what that means. House Bill 57 is something that did start to surface last year, and it's allowing Hathaway dollars to be used at private post-secondary institutions like Catholic College, like WyoTech. So it's an interesting dynamic, has a lot of support in the Freedom Caucus, but there are a lot of dynamics to that whole concept of utilizing public dollars to go to private institutions. So there's just nuances with how people are thinking about that. Um,
Brad, can be one quick note on that. So,
Brad, can you speak up?
yeah, it's Brad. So on that Hathaway, that it's like $500, right? Is what they're saying that a student can get for like up to 2 years or something.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think if that's what
You
I
know,
remember.
WildTech's like $33,000 for a 9-month program.
You're right.
You know, it's kind of I mean, but the problem is they want to get their foot in the door because that's not
Right.
where they want to stop.
Nose under the tent. I'm
And
concerned about the transparency piece. I've said it in other places. I'll probably stop unless we're on the floor, but tax dollars going to institutions that are not subject to complete transparency through public records might be an angle to fight this, because how could we be using public dollars to institutions that don't have to share their information with us?
And there's been some other bills in the tax space that have also crossed this bridge, so to speak. So it's a whole concept that people are discussing. So it's something that we're keeping an eye on.
And Aaron, I'll just weigh in that on this bill, there is a requirement for our community college, a new requirement for our community college to report on private colleges using the scholarship. And so we would take on some additional reporting.
Okay, thank you for that, Christy. That's important given what we just talked about with the commission's resources. House Bill 58 is an important bill that I really do want to spend a little bit of time on. It's called voter approval for mill levy imposition. And what it does is it just focuses on two right now. So the fact that I'll have to look at the title or how the introductory part of the bill is written, but the title suggests it probably could have other mill levies in there that currently don't have to go to a vote of the people, and that's the half mill for recreation and the half mill for BOCES. And for those of you who have those in either your K-12 districts or your college districts, you know how those work. This would require those to go to a vote of the people. So to go to our earlier conversation about needing more funding or stable funding for dual enrollment, this weaves into that conversation pretty readily. What is at risk, and I did hear yesterday that the folks at the Wyoming Association of Municipalities that they are really looking at this bill as a line in the sand. Nose under the tent, whatever the word is, whatever the phrase that I'll probably screw up if I try to make up another one, is that it can just take things a little too far if it does go to all of those other mill levies and then requiring everything out there to go to a vote of the people. That's not how Wyoming is set up. Other states do that on some things, and then how their public initiatives go. That's not how Wyoming is set up. So that would change things dramatically. So we are watching that. I do have a one-pager that's drafted. I'm working on refining that. We'll cooperate with the other folks who are impacted by that to make sure that you guys have talking points on that. I'm hearing it's generating from an issue perhaps in the speaker's neck of the woods. I'm not sure if that's the case, but that's what I'm hearing. So sometimes we have bills drafted to shine a light on some issues. So I don't know if it has to do with an issue that happened up in that part of the state.
Can I chime in for just a second, Brad? Again, sitting on both the Natrona County BOCES trustee board, that by design back in 2019, I'm sure if you went and looked at the debate that was going on, this was designed to be a stable, once you got it past the voters, it was designed to be a stable source so that you could have consistency. And you go start voting on this, and it's basically gonna do away with BOCES because you're not gonna be able to manage it. You're gonna have a lot of starts and stops because you got catalogs that you have to present for the students to pick from. So coming into the end of your fourth year, in my mind, you're gonna shut it down, see if you get through the election cycle, then you're gonna fire it back up. And so in theory, you'd be trying to fund, on like a 2 or 3 year cycle because you didn't know if you're going to be able to offer any BOCES if it doesn't get past the voters. And so it would basically I mean, I don't see how the BOCES organization is going to function in this type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
You're not going to have any money you can't spend taxpayer dollars to promote the vote. So then you're either going to try to fundraise. I mean, it's basically a tool to do away with it. But that's how I've been looking at it.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and keep in mind, every bill that's not a budget bill has to go through that two-thirds vote for introduction. This is a House bill. I don't know if it gets the two-thirds vote. So we'll see. We'll see. I have a feeling though, it's not the last time we'll see it. So a lot of these things aren't going to make it through. Listen to me saying that so calmly right now. Talk to me in a week. But let's just see how that looks. But let's move on because I want to make sure we respect our time too. So we're watching House Bill 59 with bond election language. It's really interesting because it's suggesting that a civil cause of action can be brought if someone believes that the question of the bond was stated in a way that doesn't meet the true purpose and stated in an impartial manner. That seems to me that it could invite a lot of subjectivity. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. But that's something that we need to really just keep an eye on. Some of you have bonds out there, and what that looks like. That'll impact a lot of other things. There's a few bills regarding veterans, some more. They're really trying to broaden the opportunity for veterans, Guard members, active duty, and whatnot to take advantage of some of the veteran property tax exemptions that are already out there. There is a bill on here dealing with the fact that, there might not be pennies in circulation soon enough. And so just pay attention to that. All of you have sales of some kind of cash of some kind on your campuses. And so we thought that probably needed to be in there. House Bill 72 is that little obscenity bill that I mentioned earlier. The way that it suggests that the misdemeanor could be invoked with this knowingly to distribute in any possible way or method. So again, I just don't know if this is a great way to write model legislation, inviting so much, I don't know what knowingly means. I don't know what any possible way or method means, things like that. So again, two-thirds introduction, doesn't make it through the whole process. I'm not sure, but it's back. So we've got to deal with it. So House Bill 73. So I need to fix some of my, I'm noticing my spreadsheets here. It's contingent upon House Joint Resolution 4 passing. So this is one that allows the legislature to change the way your properties can be valued. So suggesting something like an acquisition-based system that California uses. Prop 13, my opinion, not a good idea. And I have some of that in that Property Tax 101 that's posted on the website. So if you're looking for other opinions on how those things work, I'd be happy to find them for you with my experience in the tax space and whatnot. It suggests that this is not a good idea for our state. So that will be how I will present the information to you. House Bill 88 is one that, again, is an old friend at this point. Public funds lobbying, prohibiting the use of state funds or resources for lobbying. Of course, it has all of the associations spun up for cities, towns, counties, special districts, school boards, things like that. They don't, I don't know if any of them, maybe some do, have foundations that they can utilize to pay their dues. I know that there are some legal precedent in other states that suggests if something like this passes, that there's a path to take us into litigation. So that's one that we're just watching. Again, thank you for everyone for making sure WACCT can tell a different story from paying our dues from the foundations, but we still want to be good partners on that and supporting folks. And then there's House Joint Resolution 4, which is authorizing the legislature to change that. So I'll include that on the complete list of property tax stuff. On the Senate side, we do have this data privacy bill for government entities, so it does pertain to the colleges and the commission. There is some language that we worked on last year that still stands that suggests that an exemption could be granted from the governing entity, so the board of trustees for the colleges. But I know the CIOs are and others are working to just make sure how this bill is written, if it's okay, if there's something we need tweaked. That's the ask is out there right now. So it was brought forward last year and didn't make it. We'll see how it fares. Sometimes a bill like this will just not be as interesting and just not be a priority, which honestly this year it might not be. So there's some property owned by the Game and Fish Commission. I don't think the numbers are terribly huge, but decreasing property taxes, again, like I said earlier, every dollar matters. So we're just adding it on there. Let's see. Senate File 29, there was a conversation about this last year about taking away the ability for folks to use school identification cards, Medicaid, Medicare, things like that as acceptable identification to vote. So that is something that the Joint Corporations Committee worked on again and brought forward again as a committee bill. I think they have like 12 elections bills, something like that. So I know there were some folks who had opinions about the student ID portion of that. If there's something that I need to know on that or that you need to communicate, please let's communicate on that or talk to your legislators. It's not traditionally been a WACCT platform. But if there's something in there that's really important that I need to know, please let me know. Again, I mentioned the Joint Education Committee bills, this idea of allowing students to utilize their Hathaway scholarship as they want to, basically saying, here's the sum amount that you're eligible for, use it as you'd like to, is an idea that's been marinating for a few years. We'll see how it rolls forward. There's a lot of questions about it. So that's just one that we're watching. The long-term homeowners exemption, removing the sunset because that was only in there for, I think, 2 years. We have some data from that. This will be interesting to see. It might seem like low-hanging fruit if we take that off, but again, every dollar matters. So I don't really see a place from all of the groups that I know that are watching the property tax bills where anyone supports really any of these bills. But this one maybe might have a better chance just because it does target long-term homeowners. And it's not a broad-based for everybody sort of a thing. We are finally looking at increasing the awards for Hathaway's scholarships. Personally, as a parent, I'm really excited about this. Once your kids get to college, you actually realize Hathaway has less buying power than maybe it once did. And so this is an important bill, in my opinion. And we'll see again, because it's a joint education bill and it's a budget year, how that fares, but it might get some traction. The last bill that I have on here, and then we'll talk a little bit more about property taxes, and we've got about 15 minutes left, is this Public Records Act. I know a lot of folks are watching this bill. I really encourage all of you to read this. I know the commission's paying attention to it, how it impacts how you're paying attention to data requests and things like that. There are new time limits in there and things like that. So I really am asking for input on that bill. If there's information that I need to communicate back, or you can do it locally too. I encourage you to do that because the best voice for legislators to hear from, of course, is from home. So I'm going to stop sharing right now and mention to you that the broad categories that I'm seeing right now. One, I do want to touch on this idea of the Business Council and UW. The message that I am trying to talk to folks about is that, you know, it really does take all of us to make Wyoming what it is, and really giving an institution like university these draconian cuts is really it's pretty tough. We're great partners together. I've heard some legislators say we want to give those dollars and give it to the colleges. And I'm really asking legislators, if you want to invest in the community colleges, do it because you believe of the investment that the colleges make in the state, but don't do it to spite our university. So I hope everyone would support me in that kind of a message. I don't think they're going to end up with those big cuts in the end, but there's, you know, it's going to be a long haul for them. Likely reform is what's coming for the Wyoming Business Council, and maybe that's okay. But you know, the role that they play in economic development across the state is important. And you know, what does economic development mean? Again, that's a big question that a lot of folks are still trying to figure out. How do we define it? It's probably different than how you defined it. So those are okay things to happen in our state. In an election year, it might just be fodder for the election circuit, but it's what we're all going to be in. I'll stop there. I just wanted to tell you also, stay tuned on property taxes. With regard to the ballot initiative, I am part of a broader group that's working to just coordinate and really make sure we're not all working in silos on education efforts and things like that. And so we're just kind of getting started. The legislative session, again, going back to, we need to understand the cumulative effects. Our friends at the taxpayers have been great about sharing that information with us, and that's up on our website. That webinar and the slides accompanying that. And what does that look like for all of these entities? And so we're going to really just work with our partners across the state to continue that story, because you can't talk about funding for the colleges or dual enrollment or mill levies and this and that without talking about the fact that these decisions have taken away a pretty decent revenue base for the community colleges. So we need to weave it into the story at all times. I'll stop there. And I also wanted to, I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to say one more thing and then I'll take questions. I want to also then remind you, in addition to my weekly emails, remember we do have WACCT weekly calls just like this on or Zooms on Fridays at 10, and we'll start that up next week. Even though we've had the big WACCT event, which is February 12th, the students are coming to town, all of that good stuff, we'll still have a call on Friday at 10. So now I'll take any questions if folks have questions. No questions, going to be an easy session.
You already complained to me how frustrated and wore out you were after just on a Tuesday after just having the following Monday in front of the JAO. It's gonna be a long session.
Trying to keep my energy up, Brad. Trying to keep my energy up.
Well, we have your back.
I know you do. And you guys, this is a great a great family and a way that everyone works together. So I'm really looking forward to that. Just for everyone's information too, each president takes a turn at spending a few days in Cheyenne in a short session. It's what, about 3 days each. Trustees, you're always welcome to come with me and be with me. If there's opportunities to testify, believe me, we don't need to be shy, but there's always opportunities. So the more they hear from you, and I'll definitely be reaching out to my communications will be as factual as I can make them. I try not to put a lot of conjecture and interpretations into them. I like to make them as black and white as I can. If I need something from some of you, I'll call you or I'll text you. So I don't want to get into that in front of the whole group. So
Hi, Aaron.
yep, Dr. Haas.
Could you provide a quick update on the WACCT legislative luncheon next week?
Yes. So this is a great time to do that. The legislative luncheon will be held on February 12th. So board meeting, WACCT board meeting, commission workshop, all that is on the 11th. And then there's the reception out at LCCC. All of that is held at LCCC's campus. And then the next day, instead of a breakfast, so keep this in mind, it's a luncheon this year. It's the only time we could get the room. Same room in the basement of the Capitol. And we are doing it in conjunction with the other WACCT, the Wyoming Association of Career and Technical Educators. And so it runs from 11 to 2. Starting at 11, the food will be ready then. The program will not be started just then. And we are finalizing that. We are on a little bit of a waiting game because we don't know when the governor can be there. So just have the students there at 11. They and their families can eat, and etc. And we will have a little bit of a program because doing it with WACCT, we're combining efforts. And so we will have some words from our great friends and partners at the Wyoming Business Alliance, and Rennie McKay, who's the president, is going to welcome everybody because they are a great supporter of WACCT and WACCT. So the Business Alliance, and they sponsor the student awards with our WACCT for us. And so Rennie is going to welcome everybody. The governor will welcome folks. We'll have the state superintendent of public instruction there because Superintendent Duggenfelder's been a great supporter of CTE. February is CTE month. That is the why. We'll have a few words from Dean Shim at the College of Education at the University of Wyoming and one of the student organizations, student speakers, our 8 student awardees. And then the governor will sign a proclamation for CTE month. And so it's a little more involved this year. The room will be packed. We'll just make do if folks eat. Maybe they can get up from the tables, but people will be standing. It will be a packed house. It'll be great. But I'm going to give you all a heads up that is the case. I have communicated, I believe people can park in the parking garage if you're from out of town. Otherwise it's, everyone has to fend for themselves for parking on the street somewhere. Get folks down there. I've provided maps. We'll have our WACCT banner up in the basement. If we can get people there, then I think we can get them directed pretty easily enough. Dr. Hawes, what else can I answer if I've forgotten something? I think everyone
Sorry,
should
no,
have
that's
something.
great. That was
Okay.
perfect. And with the addition with the other WACCT group, it's just I think that's a great focus going into this session on one thing that legislators are all positive about. So obviously happy birthday and enjoy a little bit of rest before it ratchets up next week.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And something that comes with our friends at the other WACD and our sponsor supporters is when we're making an ask, and that will happen because the CTE dollars, maybe we make a run at getting some more CTE dollars. We'll ask them to help support us, and they will. So that's really the beauty of how we work together. We supported the work that came out of the legislature last year to help refine how the K-12 CTE dollars were being used. I know they'll help us this year. So we're pretty excited about that partnership.
Aaron, you said that luncheon is Thursday or is it Friday?
It's the 12th.
The
Is that,
12th.
I think that's Thursday. Is that right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, that's Thursday.
Because the commission meeting maybe was on a Friday, but it's on a Thursday now. The commission will start at 7 a.m., folks. So if you're coming or watching that, keep that in mind. Thank you, by the way, Dr. Ballard, to you and your commission, because you worked around us because we didn't know when we could get that room. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. The governor should be there around 7:45 for the commission meeting.
Okay, good. Also, one more thing. I have arranged for a private tour for the students and their families. So at 3 o'clock on that day, if they don't need to get out of town just yet, someone from Pam Landry from the staff who do those capital tours has offered to host this group again. So that's a really special bonus for them.
Aaron, where is the commission meeting? It's not out at LCCC.
It is.
It is in the morning.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Dr. Ballard, is it in the Clay Pathfinder building?
I believe so.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Yeah, I missed the reference to 7:45. I thought it was 7.
The governor will be there. We start at 7. The governor will be there around 7:45.
Thank you.
I'll be sending out all the materials for WACCT board members. I'll be sending those materials out probably tomorrow. I have a couple of refinements. Worked with Treasurer Smith this morning in Gillette, so that was nice. And we'll make sure we get all those out there. And also where the WACCT board meeting is will not be where it's been in the past. I believe it's in the boardroom at LCCC. So just keep that in mind. I'll also include a map of the campus for you. That's all I have. Look at that. It's 4:29. So folks, I'm going to end the recording. And of course, you all know that you can